end about anything on that topic. Some customers were emailing me earlier, asking me about subscription contracts and how they worked in general. I'd be more than happy to answer that, but let's get through what this topic is, which is switching your maintenance, your perpetual licenses on maintenance over to subscription. So if I click here, I think I should, there we go. So we're going to do this. I am going to go over the one current promotion that is available. Then we're going to go over about maintenance and subscription, some of the key dates, the pricing, which seems to be the biggest confusing factor of all, and what that means long-term going in 2, 3, and 4 years down the road. Then we're going to go over what can be switched and just some of the, I put software management, but it's really kind of the ins and outs of how this will work with your existing licenses a little bit. So I'm going to put a disclaimer here. Autodesk can change any of this at any time, as we all know, and I am just the messenger, but I'll do my best to give you the information that I know going forward. I had a few questions, but my rep was good enough to answer those for me at the last minute. He might even be on here as we speak, so hopefully he can chime in if I mess up and say something wrong. All right. So the current promotion, and this is geared towards people that have licenses that have fallen off of maintenance. So you do not have a current license on maintenance. You may have a perpetual license that the maintenance expired, you decided not to renew it. It can be quite old, almost back to the very earliest of versions. And they will allow you to take those, get on a 3-year subscription, and you get 30% off. This is available through April 21st. It's eligible for, and like I said, any of the licenses for the most part that are not on maintenance. The focus on most of the rest of this presentation is for people that are current on maintenance. So I don't want to get that confused. I did just want to let people know. The discount ends up being about 40% because on a 3-year subscription, they're already giving you a 10% discount on that as it is. So you're getting an additional 30 off, which would make it 40%. And then if you're nice to Brad and I, maybe we can cut a few more points off of that. But this you can check out at autodesk.com/trade-in-promo. It'll let you put in your serial number and let you know if it's eligible and so forth. And hopefully you'll pick Motion Media as your reseller if you decide to do this. If you don't know your serial number and you purchased the software through us, I will have access to that and can get that for you. Just email myself, Brian at motionmedia.com, B-R-I-A-N, or Brad, B-R-A-D, at motionmedia.com. And we can be more than happy to check that. We have access into the Autodesk systems for any of the software we've sold, so we can look that up for you, no problem at all. All right, so I will hit this at the very end if we have additional questions, so let's just move forward. So the one thing we wanted to go over is just some general facts about this maintenance. Autodesk does not have any plans right now to discontinue maintenance. I know it seems like it with all of the things to switch and all the promotions, and they would really like you to not be on maintenance and move to the subscription model because that's what they want to have most people on going forward. But there are no current plans to discontinue it in the near future. And by near future, at least 3-4 years out, because we have we'll have a 3-year model as we're looking at right now. So they are perpetual. They're good. If you do not decide not to do anything else with them, you can use them as long as you want, or as long as your hardware will continue to support it. And there's nothing they're not planning on making you switch. So that's the first thing to say. They're trying to make it as attractive as possible to have you switch and to make that a good experience, but they're not making you switch. You will continue to get upgrades and support if you're on maintenance. You're not losing any of that. So there's really no change if you decide there's not going to be a change outside of some of the price increases that will be coming, that we'll be going over in the next couple slides. So the difference between maintenance and subscription is basically their term model. It's a term license. You get the latest, greatest product enhancements. And this is where I think the big benefit will be for people on subscription, and where Autodesk will make it more and more enticing for you to move to subscription, is that it's, in my opinion, this is completely opinion, but I have a feeling that benefits will be increased for those on subscriptions, cloud offerings possibly, or if they get additional software over the years or plugins, that they'll bundle that with their subscription, their collections, and those may or may not be available for people on maintenance. I don't know that, but I can tell you, for example, in an earlier webinar we gave, it was announced that in June, July timeframe, Autodesk is going to abandon the basic and advanced support offerings for people on subscription and just give everybody essentially what's the equivalent to an advanced maintenance for the same price advanced support, sorry, for the same price. People on maintenance would continue to still have to pay that. It's a very small difference of a couple $100s a year, I think, but they'd still have that separation of basic and advanced. And so to make that a little more enticing, they're going to do that. I believe they're going to be giving a new support phone number for people on subscription versus the support number on maintenance. Not that the technical support will be any better or worse, but it's just a priority tier thing. And then there'll be some simplified administration based on your subscription going in. That's just kind of a general thing on subscription. You have named user support on your node locked. Whether or not you switch it or not, that's just part of the way subscription works, which is really nice for managing your node lock licenses. However, it is a term license, and if you don't renew it, it expires. So that is the downside of it, I suppose. All right, let's go forward. All right, here are some of the key dates. Autodesk announced some different dates. I'm kind of changing these up to fit Motion Media's kind of guideline, but a lot of you have been quoted multi-year maintenance, and the last day that we can process any of those orders is March 31st, tomorrow. They announced that they were no longer going to support it after February 20th, but we have a lot of quotes out for people, and they're going to allow us to honor those until tomorrow. And that's important if you decide to take advantage of some of the cost savings that you would have if you did a multi-year maintenance on your perpetual license by tomorrow, because the price is going up on May 7th. So you'll get a price, you'll save the price increase May 7th, and then year over year, you'll see it's also going up. So you'll save over 3 years doing that if you decide to stay on maintenance. The maintenance to subscription offer doesn't go into effect until June. So there's a little bit of a time difference between now and June. There are some people that fall into this in-between area, but in actuality, it can be a good thing, and I'll explain that later on. But the maintenance plan pricing going up May 7th will, if anybody has any maintenance and they just want to even do 1 year and their maintenance is due June or July and they want to stay on it, you can certainly renew before May 7th and before the price increase and get another year at the current price. It's not a huge increase, but every dollar counts, right? So we're going to go over a little bit of this, a little bit more here on the next slide. Does anybody have any questions on this yet? Brad? No? Okay. All right, let's just cut to it. Maintenance prices going forward. We have this little chart here that I stole off an Autodesk presentation they gave us, and it does get a little bit confusing. So May 7th, this is the next 3 year, kind of looking forward. On May 7th, we're going to get a 5% price increase. So this current maintenance plan means price as of today, we're going to get a 5% bump. Then in a year from now, that's going to get compounded with another 10% bump. And then the following year, a 20% bump. So what does that look like? I changed this up a little bit. So let's just look at it. As of May 7th, these are the prices each year that we should see approximately. I mean, I'm taking 5, 10, and 20%. They might round up or down a little bit on each one of these prices or something, but this is, I think, pretty close to what you can expect to see on your maintenance prices going forward. And I'm using this as based on a Maya maintenance price with basic support, which is normally $625. 3D Studio Max is also the same. And different products have different base points, but a large number of our customers have 3D Max, 3D Studio Max, or Maya. So I use that as an example. So it's going to go up, $30, $721, $865. And you can renew ahead of time here. You can renew ahead of time on each one of these dates and still, maintain your current pricing at that time. So I don't know the exact date year over year that it's going to increase, but that's what we're going to start seeing. And I'll talk about what's going to happen after May 2019 up here in a few slides. So what they're going to offer, and I should have probably put this before, is you can switch your maintenance to subscription and maintain your current price lock for 2 years. And I'm going to talk about that. This doesn't happen until June. You can't switch now, even if you told me you wanted to. If your maintenance expires, for example, on May 7th or May 8th or 10th, and you need to renew it, Autodesk does not allow for late renewals, as we know. So you'll need to renew it, and you won't have the option of switching until next year. There is a workaround to that if you feel you must switch this year. I don't necessarily recommend it, honestly, but you're not going to really save any money per se. But if you really want to switch this year, we can extend your license for a month or 2 months, and then you'll fall within the June timeframe and you can switch. The one advantage I could see is they will allow you to switch, let's say, from a Maya to an industry collection, and your maintenance price / your subscription price going forward will be the same. So you're getting that whole collection for the same price that you have Maya or 3D Studio Max for. So if you really wanted to use that sooner than later, an extension of a couple months might be the best way of going. This may mean it costs you more to switch next year because every year, as we're going to see, they're going to increase the price to switch. However, you can renew your maintenance early. You don't have to wait to the last minute. So if your maintenance is due on May 15th, after the price increase, well, you can renew it before May 15th and take advantage of the current price. And then next year, you can also take advantage of the current price at the time instead of waiting for that 10% increase and renew it early and not wait till the last minute. And you can do that up to 3 months. So it's the ball is a little bit in your hands as far as what you want to do there. Like I said, my opinion is if you really want to switch to subscription, then we can extend the licenses a couple of months. Although I don't know how many people realistically will want to do that unless they want to take advantage of that collection pricing now. My rep is probably cringing that I said that, but we'll let it go. So this is the price to switch and the price to switch going forward. Again, you do not have to switch at all. You'll see it coming on. You never have to do this if you don't want to. So this is just what they're going to do over time if you wanted to switch. They're giving the guys with perpetual current maintenance a much better price of subscription year over year than they are if you were to buy a new seat on subscription. So I thought I got rid of the slide, but apparently not. The current price in May 7th, as of May 7th, is going to be, there we go, is going to be $656. And that's what it'll cost you to either switch or continue on your maintenance. So it's the same price either way for that year. If you decided to wait until next year and you decide to switch next year, your price to switch should be approximately $689. If you remember on an earlier slide, I mentioned $721 as the price of your maintenance. So at this point, the prices start to separate a little bit more as far as being on the subscription or being on your current maintenance. And this will continue the next year, adding another 5%, and that should get you about $725. On that earlier slide, if you were on maintenance and you decided to renew, your renewal price at that point would be $865. Now, to make this a little more enticing, they've done one other thing on switching. For the first 2 years, your rate is locked at the price. So if you switch this year, or any time that it's actually $656, so between May 7th and May 7th, let's say, of 2018, your next 2 renewals will also be $656. Likewise, if you wait to the following year and the price goes up to $689 and then you decide to switch, you'll be locked in for 2 additional renewals at that same price without any of the price increases going forward. So that's, when you start looking at that, you start balancing the cost of switching versus the cost of staying on maintenance. And going forward into years 4 and 5 and so forth, that cost savings will still be there for you depending on when you switched. So we're going to take a look at that, but I wanted to stop because it's very confusing, I understand, and see if anybody has any questions on this. Okay. All right. So let's go forward. So this is kind of a long-term scope of how this works out. Now, in this case, I used AutoCAD as an example and not Maya, so the prices are a little different. And that's mostly because this was already done for AutoCAD and I didn't have to redo it, so I was being a little lazy. AutoCAD currently is $545 for maintenance. It's going up to approximately $570. And then $625, and then $750. So the blue line here is if that person stayed on maintenance over the years, this would be the price they would pay. And then the gray line is if they switch to subscription, the price that you would be paying and then get locked into. So let's say you decided to switch this year and pay $570 for your subscription. Next year, $570, following year, $570. You're all good, you're saving money. After that, you're gonna get, the 4th year, you would get bumped up to this rate here. And you can see there's a little tiny, if I zoom in, there's a little tiny bump in price here, it looks like. So this going forward on this gray line and this blue line represent kind of the stabilization point of the pricing. There won't be any major price increases going forward, but that's not to say there isn't a little tiny bump. Every few years, Autodesk does raise the prices of their subscription. Even currently on maintenance, it wasn't always $625 for Maya. It used to be $595 and then $570 and so forth all the way back through time. So there might be small little normal price increases over time going forward. However, this green line represents like a current new seat of AutoCAD. This price is also the same price for Maya and Max, coincidentally. This is what you would be paying if you're a new subscriber. So as somebody already on perpetual maintenance and switching or staying on perpetual maintenance, you are still paying much less per year than if you had a new subscription. It is still more than you're paying now, substantially, obviously, but you know, depending on how far you lock in, will depend on how much savings you can get over the next few years. So this does bring in a few interesting ways you can do it, and why we've had numerous people doing the 545. They're like, well, I want to do this for 3 years, so boom, they're 545, you know, all the way down at the bottom of the screen for 3 years. And then they would bump all the way up to that 750 mark after that. But they could take advantage of 3 years at the least expensive maintenance renewal, as long as we do it by tomorrow. And even if not by tomorrow, you can do 1 year at a time, and then you're on this. So let's say the other option is if your maintenance expires, let's say May 15th, and we can still do it at the less expensive price if you renew before May 7th, even if your expiry date's May, June, or even July, really. I can do it up to 3 months ahead of time. So we can do, within 3 months, you're within the renewal kind of window. So you can still get the less expensive price. Same as next year, if you're going through and you're about ready to bump up, you can, I assume everybody can see my mouse, but I don't really know that for a fact. You can.
I can.
Okay, good. You can renew early and take advantage, sooner before this price bump. So if your renewal comes up in July 1st, you could jump in here and renew it before that price jump. So there's a little way to milk a little bit of better pricing out of all this if you are working with motion media, of course. But going forward, this is kind of the way it is. On that second year, you still get 2 years of renewal, so you can still see you're actually not bumping up until looks like 2020-ish time frame up to the final price. So really, you might, honestly, I'm thinking it might be worth it to switch, right in here and go forward, because then you're the furthest out. But we're talking, if you're talking one seat, we're not talking a lot of dollars. Realistically, if you have 10, 20, 30 seats, it starts to really add up. $20 here, $30 a seat, and so forth. And especially if you decide to stay on maintenance, it does go forward this way. So some other things, we'll go over FAQs about single user and floating and all of that in a slide coming up, and how this affects the price. On the quick version of it is it doesn't. If you're currently on maintenance and you have floating licenses, or you have maintenances on you have maintenance and you're using node lock, the price is the same regardless for you to switch or to stay. Much like it is now, when you renew your maintenance, you pay the same price whether you're floating or node locked, because you had to pay an extra cost up front to become floating. So that's taken into consideration. So all of these prices and the way it's laid out, it doesn't matter if you have floating or node locked. Okay, so kind of what I'm getting at, to secure pricing, you can purchase a multi-year subscription, but realistically, we only have till tomorrow. For the people, especially if we've quoted you already, you only have till tomorrow. Maybe you're already in a multi-year model, or why would you purchase a multi-year subscription? Sorry, this is a different slide, sorry. If you're already on a 2 or 3 year subscription model, you can go into that and keep everything going every 2 or 3 years, and you protect against, for some people, not necessarily, I did this for some people that are maybe watching this or are going to watch the recording that are overseas or whatever, but it does protect against foreign currency. But between a multi-year subscription or the annual subscription, since you're locked into the same price, there really isn't any cost benefit to you after over the duration of those renewals. So you are locked in for the same pricing annually as you would be buying all 3 up front. It's just, a budgeting issue realistically. So here was what I was talking about earlier on the options for switching. You can pretty much, if you're on a suite, whether it's a premium suite or an ultimate suite or whatever, you can go over to one of the collections and it's the same pricing wise. If you're on LT, you can go to LT. If you're on an individual LT, these are the two kind of niceties, I guess. If you're on an individual product, you will have the option to go to a suite, or in the case of like a Maya or Max or Revit, you can go to an industry collection. So for example, in the case of a Maya, The industry collection includes 3D Studio Max, Motion Builder, Mudbox, and all of that. So in the case of a Revit with the AEC collection, you're getting all the AutoCADs and Mechanic, a ton of software products to go with it, including 3D Studio Max and so forth. So that's kind of a nice bonus for that if you decide to go to the collection. If you have you'll just get everything. And then going forward, as you saw on that earlier slide, you're still at that same pricing. So you're an industry collection price. In that other slide, I based that green line on $1,470, if you remember, as a standard price. Well, an industry collection is more like $2,000. So you're really getting a nice break in the cost if you were looking at an industry collection. It's a really excellent way of moving over to that. And there's my fancy PowerPoint red line. So this was what I was talking about earlier on some of the additional facts. The cost is the same, but you can't, on whether it's a standalone or a floating, but you can't during the switch, they're not going to allow you to have your node locked perpetual license and then get the floating multi-user subscription. So they're not going to allow that. It has to be standalone to standalone, floating to floating for the pricing, but you can't switch it up like that. This is obviously only for people that are existing current maintenance customers. We have the promo for people that their maintenance has expired in the past. And this is still a much better deal than the promo, keeping your price structure the same anyways. This is a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have 3 seats, you can do 3 seats. If you have 1 seat, you can do 1 seat. You can't use 1 seat to get 10 subscriptions. And I think that's, I know, people do ask, but, and you must give up your perpetual license. That is a very commonly asked question. You are giving up your perpetual license rights. So that's something you really have to consider going forward. So how this works, a lot of people on maintenance haven't toyed with the term-based licensing yet, but a new contract is created. Your existing contract number is expired and a new contract number is made. You still log into Autodesk Subscription Center and all of that's the same. It's just there's a different contract number. The contract numbers for subscription can't be added, merged, or co-terminated to another contract that you may have. So combining that with the second FAQ here, where you can switch partial quantity of seats. If you have 10 seats, we can split them up and make 3 of them on subscription and keep 7 on maintenance or whatever you want. But there'll be 2 separate contracts. Now, if you have an existing contract that, let's say, expires on March 30th today, and we split it and you switch it, or that's a bad example. Let's say in June when this actually happens. If they're already on the same contract and on the same date, well, switching them isn't going to really change the date other than maybe 1 day difference in the expiration date year over year. But it will be a separate contract. If we set it up with the same contract manager and all of that, the person logs in, he still sees both contracts on the subscription center, sees the single numbers in each, just technically they are on different contracts. If you have floating licenses, however, floating licenses that are subscription and floating licenses that are on maintenance perpetual can be on the same license file. So that's the case right now and we do it all the time. Since Autodesk doesn't sell perpetual licenses anymore, it's a common thing. So anytime anybody buys a new subscription or does the switch, it's a new contract no matter what. The difference on this migration or switching is that on a new contract, if you were to buy it, we can co-terminate it to your existing contract. Different number, but we can make it same dates and everything and prorate it and do all of that. But again, this is just an opinion, but I'm sure, since this has got special pricing and all of that, they don't want it to be co-termed because you couldn't track which contracts have the the better pricing on it versus the existing contracts. So that's my guess. The way this works is if you decided to switch your maintenance to a subscription, let's say June 15th is the day that it's available, and your contract expires on July 15th, and you say, "Hey Brian, I want to do this switch. I want to do this." So I go, fine, and I put in the order and so forth. What happens is your maintenance is still current until that expires. It doesn't switch that day or anything else like that. So if you wanted to get that collection, you'll have to wait. Once the maintenance expires, the subscription term starts the following day, and then you'll have access to the collection, or you'll have access to whatever else you want. So, which means you got to be a little bit prepared, because your maintenance, technically your perpetual licenses are not allowed to be used, and now you have to go to subscription licenses. And now, so if you're using the perpetual licenses, technically on the next day you're out of license compliance. I don't know, how rigorous it's going to be, because it's, I think, a little bit unrealistic that you're going to uninstall everything at midnight, at 1 minute later, change everything out. But you can switch out some of it. The perpetuals don't shut off or anything like that, but you are supposed to uninstall all of the old versions and perpetual old versions and all that. But so you kind of want to have that date of switch on your head so that you can take care of all of that. I don't think anybody's going to come banging on your door because you had perpetuals on there for 6 extra hours while you were switching all this over. But you need to be on it. You need to be ready to go. The other thing a lot of people have with their maintenance are previous version rights. Subscription customers also have previous version rights. But because subscription is a newer product and has only been around for a couple of years, the previous versions don't go back quite as far as the maintenance ones. It's pretty close right now, honestly, because it has been around a few years. And both subscriptions allow up to 3 years of previous version rights. If it's, you definitely want to check the eligibility list to make sure the version you're using is available on subscription. Otherwise, you must uninstall it. It's not going to be a whole lot of time. There's not going to be a whole lot of times that it's not going to be available. But we do have a few customers that are really using products beyond the 3-year version rights that we've got approvals for to do, especially larger customers or customers working on projects and they're still using, let's say, Maya 2012. And we've got Autodesk approved to give a special exception to go ahead and use it while they're current and on maintenance. Those 2012 will not be available at all as a subscription product, and there's no way to really make that happen. So in that situation, we'd want to make sure that what you're using is available. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know that, for example, 2015 versions and 2014 versions of most products, they're all available on subscription. You need to have access probably to those, but when you start getting a little bit older, it could be trying. The named users are not auto-assigned. So when you set up a subscription account, whether you do this switch or not, it works much like Adobe Creative Cloud and a lot of these. It's all based on email and named users. So the admin needs to go in, unlike the standalone node locks where the guy just installs it and he activates it, that's it. The admin needs to assign by email who is going to be able to use these licenses. It's a really nice feature of subscription to be able to do that, because I can log in, I can have my Maya installed on 10 machines. As I bounce around between them at home, office, laptop, I may have to re-log in because it says, hey, I see you're on a different computer here. I need you to re-log in, and it'll kick you out of the other one or whatever. But I don't have to worry about activations. I don't have to do any of that. I can just move around. So the admin needs to assign those out. This isn't really a webinar on subscription specifically, but just so you know, you can reassign those and stuff. So people, they're not set in stone. The admin can change what the users are if they change employees, or you want to assign them to different people for whatever reason. That's all doable within the subscription account. So again, this promo is again for people not current on maintenance, and this is what they have an offering for to get those people on the current subscription. So I think, just to use a ballpark in top of my head, a Maya 3-year subscription new, I want to say is around $35 to $4,000. So it's probably 30-40% off of that if you want to trade it in. It's $1,470 a year, so that's 44 and 10% off of that. So yeah, it's probably like $4,000. So your promo will be around $3,000 or something like that. We can give you a quote, but just to give you an idea, I'm just throwing this out there. Again, this wasn't the main focus of it, but this is a pretty popular promotion right now for people that have older licenses, especially people that have let some of their license fall off of maintenance, but they're still using it. And maybe they're looking at hiring and ramping up. We can dig through, we can get a license report and see all of your old licenses, what you'd have eligible for you if you would like us to. And then, a lot of people have licenses they forgot they even bought, and they're like, hey, why are you buying a new license when you can save 40%? So we'd be more than happy to do that for you. And I think that is the gist of my webinar. So I'm sure there's questions, and I will do everything I can to answer them. Brad, anybody?
Yeah, nobody yet. I was just going to say, if you guys can, it should be on the bottom right. There's a Q&A section. You can ask questions there. Or there's also a chat panel. You can ask them there as well.
Yeah. I guess what I want to say is, you guys want to go, anybody wants to see what their current situation is and kind of talk with myself or Brad, or there's a couple other people at our office, Fernando or Gina, if they're your salesperson. Susie, a lot of you are, work with all of us there. We can totally go over each individual. We can tell each person where they're at, what the options are for them. It's no problem really at all. All right, that's it. Nobody?
That doesn't like it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody for watching. And
oh, wait, hang on. Oh. There's a couple questions coming in.
Okay.
Did I hear correctly that you can only renew maintenance within 3 months of renewal date?
That's correct.
And then, can you go from a suite to individual, like go from a suite to a Maya?
The answer depends on the mood at the time at Autodesk. We have done that for customers. It can be done. It takes some approvals. I haven't had anybody say no as of yet, although you won't be able to go back. So I do know that whenever we've done that, it's not like you can go from the suite down to Maya and then in 6 months go, hey, I want to get back to that suite again. You're kind of stuck. And it's not easy. There's not an automated process for it, but it's a case-by-case basis, and we have had that happen for people in the past. Just depends on what their daily attitude is towards doing it.
All right. A V-Ray question. Are there any changes to V-Ray subscription?
V-Ray?
Yeah.
There is no V-Ray subscription, so I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
Well, I'm wondering if it's meaning any change to V-Ray once you transfer to subscription.
No. V-Ray, the actual install for the subscription or the main is exactly the same. It's still a local install. You install it, you run plugins, all the same thing. Nothing changes there. The difference is just the activation kind of portion of it. I mean,
all right.
nothing. There is no such thing as maintenance. Perpetual. Well, there is actually. They don't sell perpetual anymore, so yeah. I mean, V-Ray would have a big problem if they didn't support subscription. But yeah, all of the install is exactly the same, subscription or maintenance, no change.
Another question: when switching to subscription, changing from a single product to a collection, is there an additional cost?
No. That's my understanding. You can choose, like on that, I don't know if I can go back here. Let's see if I can go back to, oops, sorry. Hold on, sorry about that. So do you still see my screen, Brad? I think I may have turned it off on accident.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So yeah, the cost is the same for doing this. That's my understanding. So that's, I was saying that's kind of that is the one actual, I mean, there's a financial advantage long-term to switching if you're staying on the product, because year over year, going back to this slide, you know, the people that have switched, even at year 4 will be here, and the people that didn't will be here that are on maintenance. So there'll be a, you know, some difference here. But my understanding is the collections then would also, you know, be here. So, or wherever, yeah. So there's no, my understanding is there's no difference in the price. So you can move from the one to the other at the same price. That's my understanding, and I'm sticking to it.
Another question. Any plans to have a cost for 3D Max based on usage? I haven't heard anything, but maybe you have.
No.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I guess you could do is you can just get a monthly subscription if you, or I mean, if you're only using it for like, you know, 5 hours out of the month, no, there's no like hourly rental or anything like that that I've heard of yet. I mean, I could see it happening way down the road as the cloud and all that gets even more, you know. There's a company called, is it Otoyo, that I think was playing with some ideas of that, being able to basically run the software itself in the cloud versus installing it locally and then renting time on it.
Yeah. I responded to Brian in the chat just to make sure that you saw it. You would have to, at that point, you'd either have to renew, you know, make the switch to the subscription promo at the price that it is then, or just renew your maintenance for another year and do it the following year. But yeah, you couldn't do anything else at that point.
Yeah. Excuse me.
That looks like it.
All right.
As far as questions go.
All right. So here's, like I said, the switch pricing going forward. So imagine May 2020, you know, price still staying 725-ish. Maybe they'll bump it to 750. I don't know. And the price of maintenance going forward at that point is $865 based on Maya or 3D Studio Max. So $140 difference, you know, year over year after that. But to be fair, on a perpetual license, you know, if you didn't renew, it's not going to die on you. So, you know, there is that. All right.
All right. Yeah, looks like we're good. I think we answered everything.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. If you have any questions, I will go to that last slide again. And that's our 888 number, motionme.com. You can get all the rest of our direct contact numbers and stuff.